Your mind is the most powerful tool you possess, yet it often feels like the source of your greatest unrest. We chase calm in a world designed for chaos, seeking balance while our attention is pulled in a dozen different directions. This is the modern struggle for mental equilibrium, a battle fought not out there, but in here. 2,000 years ago, a Roman emperor named Marcus Aurelius was writing in his private journal, wrestling with these same internal storms. He offered a quiet, potent reminder. The soul, he wrote, takes on the color of its thoughts. This is the heart of a timeless philosophy, a practical system for managing perspective. It is a framework for painting your inner world with clarity and calm, regardless of the external chaos. This video is your guide to those internal tools. We will explore specific, actionable techniques for shifting your viewpoint, managing your emotions, and sustaining a deep, unshakable balance. By the end, you will have a concrete mental toolkit to navigate stress and uncertainty with a newfound sense of sovereignty. How many of your daily frustrations could be eased simply by changing how you see them? What percentage of your daily stress comes from things you cannot actually control? That number, whatever it is, represents the mental energy currently being spent on a losing battle. This is where the entire practice begins, with a simple but profound filter known as the Dichotomy of Control. The Stoic teacher Epictetus laid this out with stunning clarity in the very first line of his handbook, the Enchiridion. Some things are up to us. Your mental balance. Stoics practiced a form of mental time travel to dissolve anxiety. It is a technique called the view from above, and it is a deliberate act of perspective management that shrinks your problems down to their true size. Emperor Marcus Aurelius was a master of this. In his private writings, he would constantly remind himself to see things in their true light. He would imagine looking down from a great height, seeing the bustling cities, the vast farmlands, the entire sweep of history. In that grand view, his own palace, his meetings, his personal struggles were just tiny specks in an immense landscape. He wrote that we should see all things for what they truly are, stripping away the story we have wrapped around them. This is cognitive distancing, the art of stepping back from your immediate, emotional reaction to see the bigger picture. The power here is not in denying your feelings, but in refusing to be confined by them. A harsh comment online feels like a personal attack in the moment, but from the view of a month from now, it is likely a forgotten blip, a single sentence in the endless scroll. A frustrating disagreement with a coworker can consume your entire afternoon, yet from the perspective of a year, it often fades into irrelevance, overshadowed by everything else that happened. The practice asks you to zoom out, to place your current concern within the larger timeline of your life, or even within the vast flow of human history. This does not make your problems meaningless, but it does correct their scale. It reveals that much of what we treat as a 5-alarm fire is, in the grand scheme, a brief flicker of smoke. Marcus Aurelius offered a direct prompt for this. He advised asking, "Will this matter in 5 years?" That single question is a tool for immediate mental clarity. It forces a shift from the heated present to the calm future, so try it right now. Think of one current worry, that thing gnawing at the edge of your mind. Hold it in your thoughts and then consciously ask yourself with genuine curiosity, will this truly matter in 5 years? Often, the honest answer brings an instant quieting release. The situation may still require your attention, but the panic around it dissipates. You are no longer trapped inside the worry. You are now observing it from a place of greater wisdom. This is how you build a buffer between event and reaction, creating the space where balance can grow. The Stoics believed that regularly imagining things going wrong was a key to peace of mind. This sounds completely backwards, like a recipe for anxiety, but they saw it as the ultimate form of emotional armor. They called it Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of adversity. The Roman philosopher Seneca was its greatest advocate. In his letters, he advised his friend Lucilius to spend time each day contemplating potential losses and hardships. He wrote that we should say to ourselves, "Fortune may take away from me only what she gave me." The goal was not to dwell in dread, but to disarm it. By mentally walking through a challenging scenario before it happens, you strip it of its power to shock you. This is not anxious rumination, which is a passive cycle of fear. This is active, deliberate rehearsal for the soul, building a foundation of resilience. Think of it like a fire drill. You do not practice evacuating a building because you expect a fire every day. You do it so that if the alarm ever sounds, your body and mind know what to do. Panic is replaced by procedure. Premeditatio Malorum is a mental fire drill. You are not inviting disaster. You are inoculating yourself against the paralysis of surprise. Seneca would mentally rehearse shifts in his circumstances, his social standing, even his physical well-being. He was not wishing for these things. He was asking himself, if this happened, how would I respond? What would I still have? He discovered that by facing the possibility, he diminished its hold over him. The scenario had already been faced in his mind, so its real-world counterpart lost its sting. You can apply this to the small storms of daily life. Before a difficult conversation, take a quiet moment to mentally walk through it. Imagine the other person becoming defensive or upset. See yourself staying calm, listening, and responding with clarity, not reacting with heat. You are not predicting failure, you are preparing your composure. Before a trip, briefly consider a potential travel delay. Picture yourself in the airport, not with frustration, but with acceptance, using the time to read or plan. By rehearsing your response, you transform a potential problem into a manageable situation. This practice builds a profound inner flexibility. It teaches you that your peace does not depend on everything going perfectly, but on your capacity to adapt. So this week, try a small exercise in emotional preparation. What is one manageable inconvenience you can mentally rehearse accepting this week? Perhaps it is a long line at the grocery store, a piece of constructive feedback, or a change of plans. See it happening in your mind and see yourself meeting it with calm resourcefulness. This simple act of foresight is how you stop fearing the shadows on the wall and start carrying your own light. Nietzsche famously gave this Stoic idea its most passionate name, Amor Fati, the love of fate. This is not mere acceptance, but a full, active embrace of reality exactly as it unfolds. The ancient Stoics saw this as the ultimate cooperation with nature. Epictetus taught that we should seek to have events happen as they do happen, and our happiness depends on this alignment. Marcus Aurelius took it further, seeing every obstacle not as a blockade but as raw material. He wrote that the impediment to action advances action, and what stands in the way becomes the way. This is the profound shift from seeing life as something that happens to you to seeing it as something you work with. Amor Fati asks you to find the opportunity for growth, for strength, for a new direction, hidden within every single event, especially the difficult ones. Think of it as a mental alchemy. You are taking the base metal of a disappointment and transforming it into the gold of a lesson. A missed job opportunity feels like a door closing. The practice of Amor Fati asks you to look for the other doors that this event might have opened. Perhaps it frees you to pursue a different path better suited to your skills. Maybe it reveals a need for more preparation, giving you a clear focus. It could simply teach you resilience, a quality far more valuable than any single position. The unexpected change in plans, the cancelled trip, the sudden shift in a relationship, these are not interruptions to your life, they are the very fabric of it. Loving your fate means trusting that the path you are on, with all its twists and turns, is the one that will forge your character. This is not about pretending everything is wonderful. It is about recognizing that your power lies in your response. The obstacle is not the enemy, it is the training ground. So here is a challenge for you. Look back over the last week or month. Can you identify one recent setback, one thing that did not go your way? Now, instead of focusing on the frustration, make a simple list. Write down 2 or 3 potential hidden benefits or lessons that event might contain. Did it teach you patience? Did it redirect your energy to something more important? Did it show you who you can truly rely on? This act of reframing is the practical heart of Amor Fati. It is how you stop fighting the current and learn to navigate the river, discovering that every bend holds a new view. Between an event and your emotion, there is a critical and often missed moment of judgment. The Stoics called this space the Discipline of Assent, and it is the gatekeeper of your entire inner world. It is the brief pause where you decide whether to accept or reject the initial story your mind tells you about what is happening. Epictetus taught this with elegant simplicity. He said it is not events that disturb people, but their judgments about events. An impression, a first thought, arrives in your mind. Someone changes lanes quickly in traffic, and the immediate impression is that the action was inconsiderate. Your email goes unanswered, and the impression whispers that you are being overlooked. The discipline of assent is the practice of catching that impression at the gate and asking for its credentials before you let it in to stir up your emotions. This is not about suppressing feelings, it is about interrogating the thought that creates them. Think of your mind as a courtroom. Every impression that walks in is a claim, a piece of evidence. The discipline of assent makes you the judge, not a passive spectator. You do not simply gavel and say, "Case closed, I am now upset." You stop the proceedings. You examine the claim. Is this interpretation the only possible one? Is it even true? The driver who moved abruptly might be navigating a personal difficulty or simply made an error in a moment of distraction. The person who has not replied could be managing a full schedule, or your message might have been missed among many others. By pausing to question the initial judgment, you create alternatives. You reclaim the power to choose your response. This is where your mental balance is truly forged, in that quiet space between stimulus and reaction. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of this in his private writings. He would note, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. The strength comes from that moment of conscious choice. So here is a practical prompt for your own life. The next time you feel a sudden wave of frustration, a sense of unease, or a rise of irritation, create a deliberate pause. Just one breath. In that space, ask yourself 2 simple questions. What is my initial judgment about this situation? And then, crucially, is that judgment an undeniable fact, or is it just one possible interpretation? This act of mental questioning is the essence of the discipline. It transforms you from a passenger of your emotions to the pilot of your perspective, steering toward calmer waters no matter how rough the external seas become. Stoics deliberately sought mild discomfort to fortify their minds. This principle, voluntary discomfort, might be the most counterintuitive of all. It is the practice of occasionally and intentionally choosing a harder path, not out of self-punishment, but as a form of mental training. The goal is to prove to yourself that your well-being does not hinge on perfect conditions. The Roman teacher Musonius Rufus championed this, arguing that practicing philosophy required training in hardship, just as an athlete trains for competition. He saw simple living and physical endurance as exercises for the soul. In his letters, Seneca echoed this, advising his friend to set aside certain days to live on the plainest food and the coarsest clothing. He wrote, "Practice poverty so that you may never be terrified by it." The idea was to make friends with scarcity before it ever arrived, removing its power to shock you. This is about building antifragility, a resilience that grows stronger through manageable stress. By occasionally stepping away from a comfort, you accomplish three things. First, you cultivate a deep gratitude for what you already have. A single meal tastes profoundly different after a period of voluntary fasting. Second, you demonstrate to your own mind that you are not a slave to convenience. You break the automatic link between desire and fulfillment. And third, you build a psychological buffer. When an unexpected difficulty comes, your mind has a reference point. It can say, I have handled something like this before, I can handle this now. Modern life offers endless opportunities for this practice, all scaled to daily life. It could be taking a cold shower for the final minute, not to suffer, but to feel your own capacity to endure and refresh. It could be skipping a meal intentionally, to reconnect with the sensation of hunger and appreciate the next meal fully. It might be turning off all digital devices for an evening, voluntarily sitting with the quiet and your own thoughts, proving you are not dependent on constant stimulation. Each small act is a vote for your own inner strength, a declaration that your peace is not held hostage by external conditions. So consider this a gentle challenge for today. What is one small, non-essential comfort you can voluntarily go without, even just for a short while? Perhaps it is that second cup of coffee, the background music during your commute, or the habit of checking your phone first thing in the morning. Choose one, and in that conscious choice, observe your own resilience. You are not depriving yourself, you are training a more robust and self-sufficient version of you, capable of finding balance even when life removes the cushions. Stoic peace is found by collapsing your attention into the present task. While the other principles build your perspective, this one grounds you in the only reality you can ever truly act within, the immediate now. Anxiety is a debt you pay on a future that may never come, and regret is a tax on a past you can no longer change. Both pull you out of the only moment where you hold any real agency. Marcus Aurelius offered the simplest antidote. Do every act of your life, he wrote, as if it were your last. He was not promoting drama but a profound focus. He meant to bring your entire being to the present duty, treating it with the care and precision it deserves because this moment is the only one guaranteed. This is acting with purpose, not for some distant reward, but because the action itself is the point. The quality of your attention becomes the quality of your life. Think of your mind as a beam of light. When it is diffused, scattered across yesterday's memories and tomorrow's worries, it illuminates nothing clearly and creates only shadows of unease. But when you focus that beam intensely on the single thing in front of you, it reveals detail, clarity, and a path forward. That focused beam is your presence. Stoicism asks you to wield it deliberately. Another passage from the Meditations guides us to be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved and the raging of the sea falls still around it. The unmoving rock is your attention, anchored in the present action, while the chaotic waves are the endless thoughts of what was or what might be. You can practice this with the most ordinary moments. During a work project, instead of being overwhelmed by the entire deadline, your mind spiraling into future stress, you zero in on the very next sentence you need to write, the next calculation you must make. You perform that one action with full care, as if the entire project depended on its perfection. While washing dishes, you feel the warmth of the water, you see the soap glide over the plate, you complete that single motion with intention. You are not just cleaning a dish, you are training your mind to inhabit the present. In conversation, you listen not just to prepare your reply, but to fully hear the person in front of you, their words, their tone, their meaning in this shared moment. This hour, try a gentle experiment. For the next 60 minutes, whenever you notice your mind drifting into planning, replaying, or worrying, do not judge it. Simply guide your focus back to your current physical action. Feel your feet on the floor. Notice the texture of the object in your hand. Hear the ambient sounds around. This is not an escape from thought, but a return to reality. Each time you gently pull your attention back to the now, you are strengthening a mental muscle far more powerful than any distraction. You are discovering that the sphere of your action, and therefore your peace, is always exactly here. The Stoics saw the universe as a single living organism and us as its conscious parts. This final principle, Sympatheia, is the ultimate lens for perspective management. It is the understanding that we are all fundamentally interconnected, threads in the same vast tapestry. When you feel isolated, wronged, or frustrated by others, this view pulls you back to see a larger, more meaningful picture. Marcus Aurelius returned to this idea constantly in his private writings. He reminded himself that rational beings exist for the sake of one another, and that to feel anger toward someone is to forget they are your kinsmen. He saw every individual, even the difficult ones, as fellow citizens of the same world city, all sharing in the same universal reason. This is not naive idealism. It is a practical strategy for softening resentment. It asks you to shift from seeing others as obstacles to your peace, to seeing them as part of the same whole you are trying to navigate. One of the most powerful images he used was that of the human body. He wrote that you are a limb of the whole body of humankind. What you do to another, you do to yourself. Think of that for a moment. When your hand instinctively moves to shield your eyes from a bright light, it does not feel anger at the eye for being sensitive. It simply acts for the good of the entire organism. The principle of Sympatheia asks you to adopt that same attitude toward the people around you. Their actions, however misguided, are part of a larger system you belong to. This perspective fosters a deep, natural empathy. It encourages patience because you begin to understand that unhelpful actions usually stem not from malice, but from a kind of misunderstanding, a mistaken view of what is good. The person who cuts you off in traffic is not attacking you personally. They are acting from their own rushed anxiety, a fragment of the whole behaving in a disconnected way. The colleague who dismisses your idea is not your adversary. They are another conscious part of the same project, operating from their own limited viewpoint. Applying this is a profound exercise in mental reframing. The next time you feel a surge of irritation toward someone, pause. Before your judgment hardens, consciously try on this wider perspective. See this person not as an isolated opponent, but as a fellow human being, shaped by their own experiences, fears, and misunderstandings, just as you are. They are acting according to their nature as they perceive it in this moment. This does not mean you condone poor behavior, but it changes your internal reaction from hot frustration to cooler, more strategic understanding. You can address the issue without being consumed by it. Your peace remains intact because you are no longer taking it as a personal assault, but as a misalignment in a system you are part of. So here is a question to sit with, a tool for your next moment of friction. How might viewing a person who irritates you as a fellow part of a shared whole change your reaction? Could it create space for curiosity instead of condemnation, for clarity instead of conflict? This is the final, expansive step in managing your perspective, recognizing that your balance is intimately tied to the whole, and in fostering patience for others, you ultimately cultivate a deeper, more unshakable peace within yourself. Stoicism redefines wealth not as having more but wanting less. This is the quiet art of contentment, a direct challenge to the endless mental churn of modern desire. We are taught to see ambition as a virtue, but the Stoics saw a crucial distinction. They asked, ambition for what? Chasing external markers, the next promotion, the newer possession, the larger home, is a race without a finish line. Each acquisition simply moves the goalpost, leaving you in a state of perpetual wanting. This is not drive, it is mental servitude. Seneca wrote extensively on this idea in his letters, observing that it is not the person who has too little who is poor, but the one who craves more. He saw that our natural needs are few and easily met: food, shelter, community, purpose. The rest, he suggested, is a weight we choose to carry, something that can unsettle our inner balance with every new want we adopt. True wealth, then, is a subtraction. It is the spaciousness that opens in your mind when you stop filling it with cravings for things outside your control. Epictetus described this freedom in clear terms. He said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. This is a liberation from comparison." Your sense of having enough is no longer tied to what someone else has or what an advertisement tells you to need. It is anchored in a clear-eyed assessment of what is sufficient for a good life. This does not mean rejecting comfort or progress. It means distinguishing between a tool that serves your purpose and an empty trophy that only serves your insecurity. The mental turmoil of endless wanting is like drinking salt water to quench a thirst. It only intensifies the feeling of lack. Contentment is the fresh spring you discover when you stop consuming what can never satisfy. You can practice this art of enough through mindful reflection. Before any significant purchase, institute a simple pause. Ask yourself, is this a genuine need for my well-being or my responsibilities? Or is it a want fueled by boredom, social pressure, or the fleeting promise of happiness? This is not about deprivation, but about conscious choice. Another powerful exercise is to regularly reflect on what you already possess that provides deep, lasting satisfaction. Not the flashy or expensive things, but the fundamentals: your health, your capacity to learn, the love of a friend, the quiet of a morning, the ability to work on something meaningful. These are the true cornerstones of mental balance, and they are not subject to market fluctuations or trends. So here is a reflective prompt to close this section. Pause the video for just a moment if you wish. List 3 things you already possess right now that provide you with genuine, lasting satisfaction. They cost nothing new, and they cannot be taken from you by any external event. Feel the weight of that truth. In that recognition, you are not settling for less. You are discovering the profound abundance that was already there, waiting beneath the noise of wanting. The Stoics kept the reality of life's natural limit at the forefront of their minds to live with urgency and gratitude. This practice, known as Memento Mori, is perhaps the most misunderstood of all. It was never about a morbid fixation, but about a profound clarity. It is the ultimate perspective management tool, a lens that instantly filters out the trivial and illuminates what is truly essential. By remembering the impermanence of life, they sought to amplify its value, not diminish it. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself almost daily on this theme. "You could leave life right now," he noted in his personal writings. "Let that determine what you do and say and think." He was not being dark but fiercely practical. He used the awareness of a natural conclusion to give shape and weight to his present actions. This meditation strips away the clutter of procrastination, the weight of grudges, and the allure of empty distractions. When you hold the finiteness of your time as a conscious thought, petty arguments lose their power, and the beauty of ordinary moments sharpens into focus. Think of it as the mental equivalent of a deadline for a meaningful project. Knowing the time is limited forces you to prioritize, to focus your energy on the core tasks that matter most. Memento Mori applies that same clarifying pressure to your entire life. It asks the simple, piercing question, if my time is limited, how do I wish to spend it? The answer immediately pushes aside so much of the mental noise we tolerate. The hour lost scrolling in resentment, the conversation postponed out of fear, the passion project perpetually filed under someday. These are revealed as quiet thefts of your most precious, non-renewable resource. You can integrate this reflection gently into your daily rhythm. It requires no grim ceremony, just a moment of honest thought. At the start of your day, you might briefly consider, if this were my last day, how would I want to move through it? The goal is not to act as if it literally is, but to borrow that lens of clarity to set your intentions with more purpose. At the end of the day, you might reflect, if I had spent my last day this way, would I be at peace? This is not a tool for self-judgment, but for gentle course correction, aligning your actions more closely with your deepest values. So here is the challenge, a quiet prompt to carry with you. If you knew this week was your last, what would you stop doing immediately? What meaningless worry, what fruitless complaint, what hollow obligation would you finally release? And just as importantly, what would you start? What neglected conversation would you initiate? What small act of kindness would you perform? What moment of quiet beauty would you finally allow yourself to fully inhabit? Your honest answers are not about an ending, but a map to a more vividly lived beginning. This simple verbal habit protected the Stoics from the sharp sting of disappointment. They would often attach a quiet, powerful phrase to their plans, a mental asterisk that acknowledged the larger forces at play. They might say they intended to travel to the market tomorrow, if the gods will it, or that they would meet a friend, should nothing intervene. This was not a sign of weak commitment, but of profound wisdom. It is known as the reserve clause, and it is a linguistic tool for managing expectations in an unpredictable world. The Stoic teacher Epictetus illustrated this beautifully with the metaphor of a sailor. A sailor, he taught, can make all the right preparations. They can check the rigging, plot the course, and set sail with clear intention. But once at sea, the winds and the waves are not within their command. The sailor's role is to navigate skillfully with what is given, not to demand calm waters. The reserve clause is how you remember you are the sailor, not the master of the sea. It embodies the acceptance that while your intentions and efforts are fully within your control, the final outcome always rests in a wider web of conditions. When you state a plan without this clause, you are subtly claiming ownership over events you cannot possibly own. I will finish the report by 5 o'clock. I will get that promotion. The train will be on time. Each statement sets up a silent contract with reality, and when the world unfolds differently, you can feel personally wronged. Frustration and a sense of failure rush into that gap. The reserve clause closes that gap before it can even open. It builds humility and flexibility directly into your outlook. You shift from I will to I intend to if circumstances allow. This small change does not weaken your resolve, it strengthens your resilience. Your effort remains full and focused, but your peace is no longer tied to a single specific result. You can apply this to any goal or plan, large or small. Before a meeting, you might think, I will present my ideas clearly and listen openly if the situation permits. Setting a personal goal, you could frame it as I aim to exercise 3 times this week, should my schedule allow. Even in daily conversation, you might say, I plan to join you for dinner on Friday, assuming all goes well. The power is not in the specific words, but in the mental posture they create. You are doing your part with excellence, while consciously leaving room for life to unfold in its own way. So here is a practical experiment for your next stated intention. Whether you are writing a to-do list, telling a colleague about a deadline, or setting a personal aim, try adding your own version of the reserve clause. Say it out loud or just hold it in your mind. I will complete this task by noon if possible. Notice if that subtle shift changes your emotional attachment to the outcome. Does it create a small space for patience? Does it allow you to focus more on the quality of your effort and less on the anxiety of the result? This is the quiet magic of the clause, turning rigid expectation into adaptable intention, and in doing so, softening a primary source of daily frustration before it ever takes hold. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius wrote those words not as a comforting platitude, but as a tactical instruction for the mind. This is the active, muscular application of Amor Fati. It moves beyond accepting what happens to actively forging something new from it. An obstacle is no longer a stop sign. It is a detour sign, and the Stoics believed the new route often leads somewhere you needed to go but would never have found otherwise. This principle is about transforming the raw material of a setback into fuel for your progress. Think of a sculptor with a block of marble. To anyone else, it is a heavy, immovable object in the middle of the studio. To the sculptor, it is not a barrier to their art, it is the very substance of it. They do not lament its hardness, they use it to create something of enduring strength. Your obstacles are your marble, the frustration of a cancelled project, the sting of a personal rejection, the sudden shift of a familiar routine. These are not just events to endure. They are unshaped material waiting for your creative response. The project cancellation frees up time and mental energy. Could that space allow you to develop a deeper skill or to pursue an idea you had sidelined? A personal rejection closes one door, but in doing so, it often turns your attention to other connections or to building a more secure sense of self-worth from within. This reframing requires a deliberate shift in questioning. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" the Stoic practice asks, "What can this make possible for me?" It is a search for the hidden leverage point within the difficulty. A financial constraint forces inventive frugality and clarifies true needs versus wants. A physical limitation might deepen patience or open up a new form of creative expression you had never considered. The obstacle itself provides the friction necessary to build new strength. So take a moment with this reflective prompt. Look at one current problem, a genuine stumbling block in your path. Now, set aside the frustration for just a minute and engage in a thought experiment. Ask yourself, how could this very block become the foundation for my next step? What skill might navigating it encourage me to learn? What new direction might it subtly be pointing me toward? What unimportant thing is it clearing from my view? The answer is not about denying the challenge, but about discovering the agency hidden within it. The way forward is often built with the stones that once blocked the road. Marcus Aurelius envisioned the mind as an impregnable fortress. He called it the Inner Citadel, a place of ultimate refuge and unassailable peace. This is the final, powerful metaphor that ties every previous practice together, representing the mental sovereignty you have been building all along. In his private writings, he spoke of retreating into this small citadel of the self. Here, he wrote, "You are at once safe and no longer have to look outside for peace." The walls of this fortress are not made of stone, but of your own examined judgments. The gate is your discipline of assent, deciding what impressions to let inside. The moat is your practiced view from above, creating distance from chaos. And the quiet courtyard at its center is your focused presence in the now. External events, the opinions of others, sudden changes of fortune, these are like weather outside the walls. They may rage and storm, but within the citadel you remain dry and calm. This is not about isolating yourself from the world, but about having a sacred, internal space from which to engage with it from a place of strength, not reactivity. Think of the last time you felt overwhelmed by criticism or swamped by difficult news. In that moment, your attention was outside the walls, caught in the storm. The practice of the inner citadel is the conscious act of stepping back inside. You are not denying the reality of the storm. You are simply choosing not to stand in the middle of it. You observe it from a place of safety. This is what Marcus meant when he advised himself to retreat into the little territory of your own mind. You do not need to control the world to find peace. You only need to govern this small, sovereign space that is entirely your own. You can make this metaphor practical when you feel a wave of concern about a future event or a reaction to someone's strong words. Pause. Close your eyes for just a moment if you can. Visualize a strong, quiet place within you. See its high, sturdy walls. Now mentally take the source of your distress, that worry or that reaction, and place it outside. Watch it remain there, separate from you. It exists, but it does not have the right to cross your threshold and disturb your inner quiet unless you personally grant it entry. This simple visualization is a powerful act of reclaiming your mental territory. So here is a reflective prompt to close. What does your inner citadel look like? Is it a quiet library, a sunlit garden, a simple, sturdy room? And more importantly, what have you, right now, decided belongs outside its walls? The noisy opinions of strangers, the weight of yesterday's reflections, the imagined concerns of tomorrow. See them there beyond the gate. Inside, the space is clear, quiet, and entirely yours to command. This is the ultimate goal of perspective management, not to change the world, but to build an unshakable home within yourself from which you can meet it. Stoicism teaches that much of the frustration we feel toward others stems from a misunderstanding of human nature. We often react as if people are intentionally causing us difficulty, as if their actions are a personal challenge to our peace. The Stoics offered a radically different starting point, one that is both humbling and liberating. They believed that no one consciously chooses to do wrong from their own perspective. People act according to what they believe is good or necessary in that moment. When someone acts in a way that seems poor, it is not from malice, but from a kind of limited vision, a mistaken judgment about what is truly valuable. Marcus Aurelius prepared himself for this reality every single morning. He would remind himself that the people he was about to meet would be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, and dishonest. But then he would add this crucial insight: they are so because they cannot tell good from evil. This was not a cynical view of humanity. It was a compassionate framework. He saw their flaws as symptoms of a deeper confusion, not as evidence of inherent badness. By framing it this way, he disarmed his own tendency to take offense, to judge, and to retaliate. His morning ritual was a protective practice against the spread of resentment. This idea finds a powerful echo in a broader philosophical truth, that we should understand them, for they know not what they do. In a Stoic context, this knowing is not about facts, but about wisdom. The person changing lanes quickly in traffic knows they are moving their car, but they may be unaware of the calm they are disrupting, both in you and in themselves. They are acting from a mistaken belief that their hurry is more important than collective safety or peace. The colleague who dismisses your idea in a meeting may be operating from a place of insecurity or a narrow view of success, not from a desire to belittle you. They are, in that moment, confused about what truly constitutes a good outcome. Applying this perspective is an act of profound mental care. When you feel that flash of irritation towards someone, pause. Instead of fueling the story that they are your antagonist, ask a simple question. What worry, what concern, what limited viewpoint could be guiding this behavior? You are not excusing the action, you are understanding its origin. This shifts your internal state from hot judgment to cooler curiosity. The energy you would have spent on agitation is now available for a clearer, more thoughtful response, or simply for letting the moment pass without holding onto it. So here is a practical prompt for your next moment of friction. When you are next annoyed by someone, can you assume, just for a moment, that they are acting from a place of mistaken belief? Can you grant the possibility that they, like all of us, are doing what seems right from within their own limited perspective? This single assumption is a powerful tool for easing frustration. It protects your inner peace not by building higher walls against others, but by realizing that most of the challenges directed your way were never truly aimed at you personally. They were just expressions of someone else's confusion, landing lightly at your feet when you choose to see them for what they are. The Stoics ended their day not with scrolling, but with a structured review of their thoughts and actions. This nightly ritual was their maintenance check for the mind, a way to keep their perspective in clear alignment. Seneca wrote in detail about this practice in his work on anger. He described how he would retreat into his own presence each night and submit his entire day to a kind of gentle and honest court. He would ask himself what habit he had addressed that day, what challenge he had met, and in what way he had grown. This was not an exercise in self-criticism, but in conscious calibration. He was looking for the small misalignments in his judgment, the moments where his initial impressions had led him astray, so he could correct his course for the next day. It was a daily act of perspective management, ensuring that his inner resolve remained strong and his choices remained discerning. The power of this review lies in its structure and its timing. By examining the day just past, the events are still fresh, yet the heat of the moment has cooled. You can see things more clearly, not as you felt them in the rush of reaction, but as they actually unfolded. Seneca's goal was to sleep with a mind at peace, knowing he had done his honest work of self-governance. He saw this as the essential closing of the day's accounts, settling his mental ledger so he could begin the next morning free from the clutter of unresolved reflection. You can adopt this practice with a beautifully simple 3-question format. It requires only a few quiet minutes before sleep. First, ask yourself what you did well today. This is not about grand achievements, but about spotting the small victories of perspective. Did you catch yourself before reacting in irritation? Did you remember the broader view when a problem arose? Did you focus fully on a single task? Take a moment to acknowledge that. Second, ask where your judgments might have missed the mark. Where did you perhaps assign too much importance to something outside your control? Where did you accept an initial impression as truth without questioning it? Identify the specific moment your perspective narrowed. And third, ask how you can do better tomorrow. Based on what you noticed, set one simple and kind intention. Perhaps it is to pause and take one breath before responding to a request, or to remind yourself once that other people's moods are not your responsibility. This is not about creating a list of shortcomings. It is a gentle and systematic way of learning from your own experience, of turning every day into a lesson in perspective. So tonight, before you close your eyes, try this 2-minute version. Find a moment of quiet and walk through those 3 questions with gentle honesty. You are not judging your day, you are learning from it. You are performing the essential maintenance on your most important tool, ensuring it remains clear, balanced, and ready for whatever tomorrow brings. A Stoic is not a statue, but a person who has mastered the weather inside their own mind. This mastery is often misunderstood as cold indifference, but the ancient Stoics had a very different word for it, apatheia. This is not the modern idea of apathy, a dull lack of care. It is its opposite, a state of freedom from the destructive storms of irrational passion. The goal was never to feel nothing, but to feel rightly, to experience the world with a clarity unclouded by the turbulence of emotions that sweep reason aside. The founder of Stoicism, Zeno, described the ideal life as one lived in agreement with nature, a smooth flow of existence. This smooth flow is what apatheia protects, a mind like a clear lake, reflecting reality accurately, not one churned into a muddy frenzy by every passing wind. The Stoics made a crucial distinction between 2 types of emotional movement. First were the initial, involuntary flickers of feeling, which they called propassions. These are the quick, natural reactions, the flash of alarm at a loud noise, the sense of poignancy at a difficult turn, the spark of joy at a friend's success. These are human and healthy, the first impressions of the world upon the soul. The problem arises with the second type, the full-blown passions. These are what happen when we take that initial flicker, feed it with judgment and story, and let it grow into a consuming fire. That flash of alarm becomes paralyzing anxiety. That sense of poignancy spirals into a prolonged state of helplessness. That spark of joy, if it becomes a craving for more, twists into envy or greed. The passion is the emotion that has hijacked the rational mind, convincing it that this temporary, intense feeling is the most important thing in the world. Apatheia, then, is the freedom from these hijackings. It is the cultivated ability to experience the initial feeling without being commandeered by the subsequent passion. It is the space between the spark and the wildfire. Consider a practical contrast. Imagine someone spreads an untrue story about you. The initial propassion might be a sharp sting of hurt, a sense of unfairness. The passion, however, is the consuming frustration that follows, the mental plotting, the hours spent in turmoil, the damage to your own peace and possibly to other connections as you react from that heated place. The response, guided by Apatheia, acknowledges the sting, the sense of injustice, but does not let those feelings dictate irrational action. From a place of clarity, you might choose a calm, firm conversation to address the issue, or you might recognize the source as unreliable and simply withdraw your concern from their opinion, protecting your energy for what truly matters. The feeling is not denied, but it is not in the driver's seat. The early Stoic teacher Chrysippus saw these passions as misalignments of the soul, judgments that had grown swollen and distorted. The cure was not suppression but correction, returning to a rational view of what is truly good and truly within our power. So here is a reflective prompt to bring this principle close to home. Can you recall a recent time when a passion, like a surge of frustration, a wave of intense comparison, or a flood of anxious worry, truly clouded your judgment? In that moment, the emotion felt all-consuming, like the ultimate truth. Now, with the calm distance of hindsight, ask yourself, what would a clear-sighted, rational response to that same situation have looked like? What action would have served your long-term peace and purpose, rather than just expressing the temporary storm? That gap between the passionate reaction and the clear-eyed response is the very space where Apatheia grows, where you stop being a passenger to the storm and start becoming the steady captain of your own soul. The Stoics proposed a radical form of cognitive neutrality for navigating life's ups and downs. They trained themselves to see most events as neither inherently good nor bad, labeling them instead as indifference. The moral value, they argued, is not in the event itself, but only in how we choose to use it. This is a profound shift from our instinctive labeling. We tend to classify everything that happens to us immediately. A promotion is good, a flat tire is bad. A compliment is good, a criticism is bad. The Stoic framework interrupts this automatic sorting. They divided all things into three distinct categories. The only true good is virtue, the excellence of our own character, our wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. The only true evil is vice, the corruption of that character through foolishness, cowardice, injustice, and lack of control. Everything else, every single external circumstance, falls into the vast middle category of indifference. This includes health, wealth, reputation, pleasure, discomfort, even life and transition itself. These things are not good or bad in their own right because they do not improve or corrupt our moral character by their mere presence. What gives them value is solely our response. Our character's response to an indifferent is what determines its moral weight. The teacher Epictetus made this startlingly clear. He taught that illness is an indifferent, and so is poverty. Facing a great challenge like a shipwreck is an indifferent. These things are not evil, he insisted. What can be problematic is the fear of illness, the shame about poverty, the panic in a crisis. Those reactions which come from our judgments are where vice can take root. The event itself is just a set of circumstances, raw material. Your virtuous or unwise use of that material is what writes the moral story. Let us apply this to two common experiences. First, a major professional change. Our immediate, raw classification might scream that this is a difficult event. The Stoic practice asks us to pause that judgment. Initially, we classify it as an indifferent, a shift in external circumstance. Then we assess, what is the virtuous response? It could be courage to face the uncertainty, practical wisdom to reassess your path, justice in how you speak of your former connections, and self-discipline in managing your resources. The event did not make you worse. your response can actually make you stronger, more resilient, more clear-sighted. The same process applies to its opposite, receiving high praise or a windfall. Our instinct says this is good. The Stoic again pauses. It is first an indifferent, then the assessment. Does this praise tempt you toward arrogance, a vice? Or does it inspire you to gratitude and humility, virtues? Does the windfall lead to wasteful indulgence or to prudent generosity? The event itself is neutral. Your character assigns the value through your use of it. So here is a reflective prompt to make this personal. Think back over your last week. Name one event you instinctively labeled as good. Now name one you labeled as bad. Hold both in your mind. Now apply the Stoic filter. Can you reconsider each as a potential indifferent, a set of circumstances? What was your actual use of them? Did the good event lead you toward virtue or perhaps toward complacency? Did the challenging event in your response cultivate patience or courage you did not know you had? This exercise in cognitive neutrality is not about becoming unfeeling. It is about becoming free, recognizing that the power to define your experience resides not in the events that happen to you, but in the character you bring to meet them. Before the modern call to live in the moment, Stoics spoke of living in accordance with nature. This is not about moving to a cabin in the woods, but about grounding your entire practice in a coherent, meaningful worldview. It is the foundation that makes all the other principles make sense. The Stoics saw this as a dual alignment, a harmony with two distinct but connected realities. First, there is your own human nature, which they defined by two core traits, rationality and sociability. You are built to think, to reason, to seek understanding. You are also built for connection, for cooperation, for contributing to a community. Second, there is universal nature with a capital N, which they saw as the intelligent, rational order of the entire cosmos, the grand, interconnected system of cause and effect that governs everything from the seasons to the stars. Stoic peace, then, is the balance that emerges when your actions align with both of these levels, when you use your reason to navigate the world and you fulfill your role within the human community, all while accepting your place in the larger, unfolding whole. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, defined the goal of life simply to live in agreement with nature. His successor, Cleans, expanded this, seeing the universe itself as a divine city of which we are all citizens. This philosophical vision translates into immensely practical daily guidance. Living according to your rational nature means using your mind to solve problems rather than being overwhelmed by emotion. It is pausing to apply the discipline of assent when you feel frustration rising, choosing to question the story before you react. It is employing the view from above to gain clarity on a difficult decision. Your reason is the tool nature gave you to find your way, and using it fully is an act of alignment. Living according to your social nature means recognizing your fundamental connection to others. It is the principle of Sympatheia in action. It means acting with fairness, with cooperation, with a sense of shared responsibility, even when it is not immediately convenient. It is choosing patience with a challenging person, not because they deserve it, but because fostering harmony is part of your human purpose. When you act with disregard or selfishness, you are not just breaking a social rule, you are acting against your own inherent design, and that internal friction creates unease. The frustration you feel in isolation or after a disagreement often stems from this misalignment. So here is a reflective prompt to bring this foundational idea home. In what one area of your life are you currently acting against your rational or social nature? Perhaps it is procrastinating on a necessary task, a rebellion of your rational self that creates background anxiety. Maybe it is withholding an apology or a kind word, a small defiance of your social nature that builds a subtle barrier. What would true alignment look like in that single area? Would it involve sitting down to think the problem through clearly, engaging your reason? Would it involve reaching out to mend a connection, honoring your social being? Choosing that alignment in even one small corner of your world is how you stop fighting yourself and start flowing with the current of a wiser, more connected life. Seneca began his essay with a quiet observation. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. This flips the entire premise from a sobering end point to a vibrant starting line. The meditation on life's natural limit is not meant to paralyze you with its finality, but to energize you with its precious and fleeting quality. This is the principle of positive urgency, where the awareness of an ending becomes the very fuel for a more meaningful beginning. Procrastination and distraction, the endless deferral of what matters, these are not just bad habits. In this view, they are a quiet theft of your one irreplaceable resource. Time is the only currency you are given that you can never earn more of, and every moment spent on the trivial is a withdrawal from an account that will one day close. Seneca wrote that people are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. He saw that we treat our hours as if they were infinite, while guarding our possessions as if they were scarce. This perspective asks for a profound reordering. What if you treated your time with the same deliberate care as you would a limited financial budget? You would audit where it goes. You would cut out frivolous expenses. You would invest heavily in the activities that yield long-term returns in wisdom, connection, and purpose. The shortness of life, understood this way, is not a sentence, it is a liberation. It frees you from the tyranny of the trivial by making the cost of distraction unbearably clear. That hour lost to mindless scrolling is not just an hour gone. It is a piece of your finite life spent on something that leaves no trace on your character. So the practice becomes one of conscious allocation. Begin by conducting a gentle audit of a single typical day. Where did your attention truly reside? How much was passive consumption, absorbing what others have created? And how much was active creation or cultivation, whether that is building a skill, deepening a conversation, or working on a project that aligns with your values? The goal is not to eliminate all leisure, but to ensure your leisure actually restores you, rather than merely numbing you. This positive urgency creates a beautiful friction against procrastination. The important but non-urgent task, the one that lingers on your mental list for weeks or months, gains new weight. Learning a language, writing that letter, starting that fitness routine, mending a strained connection. We delay these because they lack a screaming deadline, but they are often the very things that compose a life well lived. Seneca would ask, what are you waiting for? The challenge he implicitly lays down is to act as if your time were genuinely limited, because it is. So here is a direct and practical prompt. What is one important but non-urgent task you have been putting off? It might be personal, creative, or relational. Now, do not just note it, schedule time for it today, as if your opportunity to do it were finite. Block out 30 minutes on your calendar, set a timer, and begin. That single act of scheduling and starting is a declaration to the universe and to yourself. You are no longer waiting for a someday that may never come. You are building your meaningful life with the only time you are ever guaranteed, which is this very moment, and the next one you choose to use well. While modern gratitude often focuses on big wins, Stoic gratitude found abundance in the basics of existence. This was not a fleeting emotion, but a trained perspective, a conscious act of attention that fortified the mind against the pull of endless wanting. For the Stoics, gratitude was a direct antidote to complaint and a practical shield against envy. It was the daily practice of seeing what you have, rather than lamenting what you lack. Marcus Aurelius, in the privacy of his journal, dedicated entire passages to this discipline. He would list the qualities of people he found difficult, his own family members, even his teachers, and then articulate exactly what he had learned from them. He gave thanks for a grandfather who taught him good character, for a father who demonstrated modesty, and for a mother who showed him piety and generosity. He extended this thankfulness to the guidance of philosophy itself, for his well-being and for the love surrounding him. This was not naive optimism. It was a strategic recalibration of his focus, pulling his mind away from irritation and toward a grounded recognition of provision. A powerful passage from his writings illustrates this mindset perfectly. He wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Here he frames the fundamental acts of being as gifts. The breath in your lungs, the capacity of your mind, the potential for connection, these are the true foundations of a day, and they are so often overlooked in the rush toward achievement or acquisition. This Stoic gratitude is a form of perspective management because it actively shrinks the space that desire and dissatisfaction can occupy. By filling your awareness with what is already present and functional, you leave less room for the mental noise of what is missing. You can integrate this practice with beautiful simplicity. Each day, perhaps in the quiet moments before sleep, mentally note 3 ordinary things that supported your existence. It could be the clean water from your tap, a body that carried you through the day, the reliable shelter of your home, or a single moment of quiet you found amidst the bustle. The items themselves are not the point, the act of noticing them is. You are training your mind to scan for provision, not for lack. You are building a mental habit of recognizing the infrastructure of your life that usually operates invisibly in the background. So here is a gentle instruction for tonight. Before you close your eyes, mentally thank 3 people or things from your day, no matter how small. It could be the barista who made your coffee with a smile, the functioning technology that allowed you to connect with a friend, or simply the comfortable bed you are about to rest in. Do not just list them, feel the genuine sense of acknowledgement for their role in your day. This 2-minute ritual does not change your circumstances, but it profoundly changes how you inhabit them, coloring your inner world with a quiet, steady recognition of enough. How much of your mental energy is spent managing what others might think of you? That quiet background calculation, the mental editing of your words, the hesitation before sharing an idea, it is a constant and exhausting tax on your attention. Stoicism offers a clear and liberating audit for this expense. It classifies reputation firmly in the category of indifference. It is not a good, it is not a bad, it is an external. Your character is your concern. The opinions formed in the minds of others belong entirely to them, in a realm you can never truly control or accurately know. The Roman teacher Epictetus cut to the heart of this with a question that changes how we hear things. Remember, he said, that it is not the person who speaks harshly or acts in a challenging way that defines your experience, but the view you take of these things. The sting, the sense of offense, these are not in the words or actions of another. They are in your own judgment that you have been diminished by them. If you do not consent to feel that way, the remark never truly lands. It remains outside the walls of your inner citadel, a piece of noise you have chosen not to amplify. This principle transforms how you engage with the world, especially in our hyper-connected age. Consider sharing a thought on a social media platform. The anxious cycle often looks like this. You craft a thought, then you revise it based on how it might be received. You post it, and then you check repeatedly for validation or brace for disagreement. Your peace becomes tied to the notifications. The Stoic approach redirects your entire focus. Before posting, you perform a single internal check. Is what I am about to share true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Does it align with my own sense of integrity and virtue? If the answer is yes, you share it. Your job is done. The likes, the shares, the comments, or the silence that follows, these are all external events, as unpredictable and uncontrollable as the weather. You have controlled the only thing you ever truly can, which is the quality and intention of your own action. The same shift applies to speaking up in a meeting. Your preparation focuses on the clarity and value of what you wish to contribute, not on forecasting every possible reaction. You speak because it is right and useful to do so, not because you are guaranteed approval. A colleague's glance or a boss's nod are both data points outside your command. Your virtue was in the courage to contribute, a good that is entirely your own, regardless of the external scoreboard. So here is a reflective prompt to make this tangible, a quiet experiment in mental freedom. What is one thing you would do differently this week if you were truly indifferent to praise or blame? Perhaps it is wearing an outfit you love but fear might not fit a certain trend. Maybe it is voicing an unconventional idea in a conversation, or finally starting a creative project you have kept private for fear of it being judged. Identify that one action, then for just a moment release the weight of how it might be perceived. See the action purely on its own merits, as an expression of your own judgment and character. That is the liberated space where your authentic life is lived, unburdened by the invisible audience you have been carrying in your mind. No Stoic philosopher ever claimed to have reached the finish line. This is a crucial detail, one that changes everything about how we apply their wisdom. The Stoic sage, that figure of perfect wisdom and unshakable tranquility, was always presented as an ideal, a guiding star in the night sky. You do not shame the sailor for not reaching the star, you simply use its fixed position to navigate the dark sea. The sage is your compass, not your destination. This distinction is profoundly liberating because it makes progress, not perfection, the entire point of the practice. The ancient teachers were refreshingly honest about their own humanity. Seneca, in his personal letters to his friend Lucilius, repeatedly shared his own challenges. He wrote about his frustrations, his moments of pettiness and fear. He did not present himself as a finished product, but as a fellow traveler on the path, using the ideal of the sage to measure his own growth. In one letter, he admits, "I am not yet wise, but I am striving to become less foolish." This is the authentic Stoic posture, not a statue of cold perfection, but a living, breathing effort to steer a little closer to true north each day. When you understand the sage as a compass, every daily mistake transforms its meaning. A moment of lost temper is no longer a catastrophic event that proves you are bad at this. It is simply feedback, a clear signal that your inner compass needle swung off course. The question shifts from what is wrong with me to what pulled me off track, and how can I gently correct. Perhaps you are tired or you accepted an unexamined judgment about someone's intention. The error is not a reason to quit. It is the raw data you need to navigate more skillfully tomorrow. Think of learning to play a musical instrument. You listen to a master musician, their performance flawless and inspiring. You do not listen to that recording to feel ashamed of your own clumsy scales. You listen to understand the direction of beautiful music, to hear what is possible. Each time you practice, you are not failing to be the master. You are using their excellence as a reference point to improve your own skill. Your fumbled notes are not failures. They are the necessary information that tells your fingers where to go next. The Stoic sage serves that same purpose for your character. So here is a quiet question to hold, a way to use this ideal without its weight. If the sage, that model of perfect rationality and virtue, is your compass, in which general direction did your actions today point? Were they aligned with true north, moving you toward patience, clarity, and purpose? Or were they slightly off, pointing toward reactivity or distraction? You do not need a precise degree, just a gentle sense of the heading. That honest reflection is not a judgment. It is how you take the helm again tomorrow, adjusting your course with a little more wisdom, a little more grace, steadily sailing not toward a distant star, but toward the person you are capable of becoming. For the Stoics, philosophy was written in journals, a daily workout for the mind. Marcus Aurelius never intended his private writings to be published as a book called Meditations. He was simply talking to himself on paper, wrestling with his own nature, reminding himself of his principles, and coaching his soul toward virtue. Seneca's profound letters to his friend Lucilius were, in essence, a shared journal, a space to process life's events through a Stoic lens. This act of writing was their primary tool for perspective management. It forced fleeting thoughts into concrete sentences where they could be seen, examined, and corrected. A swirling worry in your head is a formless cloud, but written down, it becomes a specific statement you can question. Was that judgment true? Was that reaction aligned with what I value? Writing creates a space between you and your experience, turning you from a participant in the mental storm into its observer. The very act of forming the words brings a clarity that silent thinking often lacks. It is the difference between feeling vaguely upset and writing, "I am upset because my colleague dismissed my idea, and now I feel undervalued." On the page, you can then engage your Stoic tools. You can ask, is my colleague's opinion within my control? You can apply the view from above, considering if this will matter in 5 weeks. You can search for the way forward hidden within the obstacle. Journaling is where the philosophy moves from theory to lived experience. It is the workshop where you take the raw material of your day and consciously shape it with your principles. You do not need grand prose or hours of time. The power is in the consistent, honest conversation with yourself. Start with a single principle that resonates with you, perhaps the dichotomy of control. At the end of your day, take just a few minutes. Write one observation about a specific event that stirred a reaction in you. Then, write one sentence applying the principle to it. For example, I felt frustrated when the meeting ran over time. My frustration is within my control. The meeting length is not, so I can choose to use the extra minutes productively or with patience. This simple act of translation from event to principle builds a neural pathway. It trains your mind to automatically reach for perspective when challenges arise. Your journal becomes a record of your growth, a map showing how you navigated past difficulties, reminding you that you possess the tools for the ones ahead. So tonight, try writing just one Stoic sentence. Observe one moment from your day and connect it to one principle that illuminates it. That single line is more than a note. It is the deliberate stroke of a brush, adding clarity and calm to the ever-evolving canvas of your mind. Heraclitus declared, "You cannot step into the same river twice, for new waters are ever flowing in." The Stoics adopted this truth not as a melancholy observation, but as a practical anchor for mental balance. They understood that to fight against change is to exhaust yourself trying to hold back the ocean with your bare hands. Peace, they realized, comes from learning to swim with the current, not from demanding the water become still. Marcus Aurelius returned to this theme constantly in his private writings, using it as a lens to view everything from shifting political fortunes to the natural progression of his own life. He wrote that the universe is change and our life is what our thoughts make it. He was training his mind to see the fluidity in all things, to recognize that what we cling to, a comfortable routine, a certain social standing, a particular version of a relationship, is by its very nature already in motion. This perspective does not devalue what we have, but it fundamentally changes how we hold it. We stop trying to freeze a moment in time and start appreciating it as part of a beautiful, ongoing flow. This principle, known as panta rhei, or everything flows, is a direct antidote to the distress caused by rigid attachment. We often experience difficulty not because something changes, but because our internal picture of how things should be refuses to update. We clutch tightly to a job title, a friendship dynamic, or even our own physical youth, as if our grip could prevent the inevitable passage of time. The Stoic practice asks us to open our hands. It invites us to see the changing career landscape not as a threat to our identity, but as the natural movement of the river, carrying new opportunities we could not have seen from the old bank. It asks us to view a relationship that has evolved, perhaps grown more distant or taken a different form, not as a reduction of what was, but as the current shape of the water. Even the process of aging, with all its shifts and adjustments, can be seen not as a decline from a fixed point, but as the continuous, natural flow of a single life from its source to the sea. Marcus offered a powerful meditation to ground this. He said, "Think of the universal substance as a river carrying all things along. How many political figures, how many famous philosophers have been carried along by time? See everything as already transformed, already in the process of change, part of a continual cycle of return to the earth. His language is direct, but his purpose is gentle liberation. He is not fostering aversion, but fostering release. By mentally acknowledging the transformation inherent in all things, we loosen our anxious hold on them. We begin to participate in the flow rather than being dragged by it. You can apply this to the small eddies of daily life. That favorite coffee shop that closes, the ending of a television series you loved, your child outgrowing a phase you cherished. Each is a small, specific instance of the river flowing. The practice is to feel the poignancy, yes, but then to consciously turn your gaze downstream. What new meeting place might become meaningful? What new story will capture your imagination? What new depth is emerging in your growing child? The flow does not stop, and your attention can choose to move with it. So here is a reflective prompt to sit with, a way to feel this truth in your own life. What is one thing you are tightly holding onto that is, by nature, already changing? It might be a memory you keep replaying, a role you have outgrown, or an expectation of how someone should be. Can you, even just mentally, loosen your grip? Can you acknowledge that the waters have moved on, and that your peace lies in turning to face the current, ready for whatever new shape the river takes just around the bend? Stoic moral arithmetic is simple. Your intention is the only part of the equation you can guarantee. This returns us to the bedrock of the dichotomy of control, applying it with careful precision to our own actions and their worth. We focus our energy on what we can influence, and here we discover the true measure of our effort. A virtuous attempt made with integrity and full focus is a complete success in the Stoic view. The external result, whether applause or silence, is a separate event, a piece of data in the world outside your mind. Your meaningful victory was secured the moment you acted with good character. The ancient teacher Epictetus captured this with his famous analogy of the archer. A good archer does everything within their power to make the perfect shot. They select the right bow, they train their body, they focus their eye, they account for the wind, and they release the arrow with steady intention. But once the arrow leaves the bow, its flight is no longer theirs to command. A sudden gust, a moving target, any of these can intervene. The archer's task is to execute the shot with excellence. Whether the arrow hits the bull's eye is a matter for fortune. To judge the archer's skill solely by the hit is to misunderstand the art entirely. Your life is filled with such shots. You prepare thoroughly for a presentation, researching, practicing, clarifying your points. That preparation is your draw of the bow, your focused aim. You step into the room and deliver it with clarity and conviction. That delivery is your release. The reception from your audience, the questions that follow, the ultimate decision made by others, these are the winds that take your arrow after it has flown. If you tie your sense of accomplishment to that final impact, you have handed your inner stability over to forces you can never fully command. The Stoic practice asks you to reclaim that peace by honoring the quality of your shot. This reframes what we often call a missed step, a project that did not reach its intended goal, a heartfelt conversation that did not mend a rift, a creative work that did not find an audience. these are not failures of character if your intention was true and your effort was aligned with virtue. The outcome was simply different from your hope. You can feel disappointment, that is human, but you need not feel a collapse of self-worth. Your character remained intact, and in striving, it likely grew stronger. So here is a quiet challenge for honest reflection. Look back at a recent experience you labeled a missed target. Now, gently separate the parts. Can you identify and honor the good intention behind your effort, the skill you applied, the courage it took to try? Can you place the unfavorable outcome in its own category, as the arrow's path after it left your bow? In that separation lies a profound relief, the recognition that your worth is not a verdict delivered by the world, but a quiet truth built by your own consistent choices, one well-aimed shot at a time. In an age of constant expression, Stoics valued the discipline of silence as a source of strength and understanding. This principle is not about withholding your voice, but about choosing its use with the same strategic care you would apply to any valuable resource. It is a social and internal practice for gaining perspective, a way to gather more information before forming a judgment and to cultivate a deeper quiet within your own mind. The noise of our own speech can often drown out the very insights we are trying to grasp. By practicing intentional quiet and deep listening, you step out of the role of the performer and into the role of the observer, gaining a clearer view of the landscape around you. The Stoics saw excessive talk, particularly gossip and idle chatter, as a drain on character and clarity. It scatters your attention and can entangle you in the affairs and judgments of others, pulling you away from your own sphere of control. Seneca wrote extensively on guarding our speech. He advised that we should be slow to speak and deliberate in our words. Before you speak, he suggested, let your words pass through 3 gates. At the first gate, ask yourself, is it true? At the second, is it necessary? At the third, is it kind? This simple filter transforms speaking from a reflex into a conscious and virtuous action. It helps prevent the common errors of speaking in haste, sharing unverified information, or adding to a conflict without purpose. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, also emphasized this, noting that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. This is not just a clever saying, it is a practical blueprint for social interaction that leads to greater understanding and less regret. When you listen fully, you receive information about the other person's world, their concerns, and their logic. You are not just waiting for your turn to talk, you are actively building a more accurate picture of reality, which is the foundation of all good judgment. You can practice this discipline in your very next conversation. Make it a quiet, internal goal to listen 70% of the time and speak only 30%. This shifts the entire dynamic. You are no longer focused on crafting your next point while the other person is still talking. You are focused on comprehending theirs. You might hear the uncertainty behind a confident statement or the unspoken need within a request. This practice also cultivates inner quiet. The mental space usually occupied by preparing a response becomes a space of receptive calm. You can extend this beyond conversation into your daily rhythm by observing a short period of intentional quiet, even just 5 minutes, where you simply refrain from adding to the noise, either outwardly or inwardly. In that space, you can often hear your own thoughts with new clarity. So here is your reflective prompt and practical instruction. In your next conversation, make it a goal to listen 70% of the time and speak 30%. Do not announce it, simply do it. Notice what you learn about the other person, and notice what you learn about your own impulse to fill the silence. That observed impulse and the choice to let it pass is where the discipline of silence truly builds strength, turning you from a reactor into a true perceiver of the world. The Stoic sees a crisis not as a punishment, but as a weight added to the barbell of character. This is a complete reorientation of how we interpret hardship. We are not here to avoid difficulty, we are here to meet it because difficulty is the raw material of a strong soul. The art of living, as the Stoics framed it, requires practice. A musician does not become skilled by avoiding scales. They embrace the repetitive, sometimes tedious work because they understand it builds the foundation for beautiful music. In the same way, life presents us with challenges not to break us, but to provide the necessary repetitions for building virtue. This is the curriculum, and every difficult person, every unexpected change, every moment of frustration is a lesson in a specific subject. Patience, courage, resilience, these are not abstract ideas you simply decide to have. They are muscles, and they only grow through resistance. Epictetus framed the entire human experience as a kind of sacred Olympic festival. He said, "But you are not in Olympia, you are here. The events are different." He was telling his students that the true arena is not a stadium for sport, but the field of daily life. Your obstacles are not random misfortunes, they are your scheduled events. The difficult conversation is your wrestling match. The period of financial uncertainty is your long-distance run. The experience of a broken trust is your test of endurance. You are not a spectator complaining about the events, you are the athlete who signed up for them. The goal is not to win in a conventional sense, but to compete with honor, to exercise your virtue to its fullest capacity in the event you have been given. This perspective turns a sense of helplessness into active participation. You are no longer being done to, you are engaging with. You can apply this lens to any stressor. Take a period of intense pressure at work with looming deadlines and competing demands. The automatic interpretation is that this is a problem to be survived, an intrusion on your peace. The Stoic training question asks, what virtue is this situation uniquely positioned to train me in? The answer might be practical wisdom, learning to prioritize ruthlessly and manage your focus under pressure. It might be discipline, maintaining your routines and care for yourself even when time feels scarce. It might be courage to speak up about unrealistic expectations. The challenge is no longer just an obstacle, it is a personalized gym for your character. Similarly, a personal journey, like supporting a loved one through a difficult time, trains a profound form of compassion and patience that quiet times simply cannot. It forges a depth of love and presence that easy days do not demand. So here is a direct and practical prompt for you. Name one current challenge in your life, something that feels like a weight on your shoulders. Now look at it through this lens of the gym. Identify the specific muscle of character it is exercising. Is it the muscle of patience, of letting things unfold in their own time? Is it the muscle of courage to face a fear or have a difficult talk? Is it the muscle of temperance to manage your desires or your reactions with more control? By naming the muscle, you transform the experience from a random burden into a deliberate workout. You are not just carrying the weight, you are getting stronger with every lift. As Epictetus said, if you did not learn these things in order to demonstrate them, what did you learn them for? That question cuts to the very heart of the entire practice. A Stoic perspective is a beautiful, intricate map, but it is useless if you never leave the library to walk the territory. Understanding a principle intellectually is the starting point, not the destination. Inner steadiness is sustained not by what you know, but by the repeated, daily act of choosing the Stoic response when it matters most, when you are tired, when you are challenged, when the world feels uncertain. This is the essential unity of philosophy and action. For the ancient Stoics, philosophy was never a theoretical subject to be debated. It was a craft like carpentry or medicine, a practical discipline for building a good life. Your knowledge is only validated through your behavior. Epictetus was relentless on this point. He saw students who could quote the texts perfectly, but whose lives were filled with the same familiar frustrations. To them, he offered a clear reminder. He said, "Do not explain your philosophy, embody it." The value is not in the elegance of your explanation, but in the quality of your choices. When you feel the heat of irritation rise and you choose to pause instead of react, that is philosophy in action. When you face a setback and you search for the lesson instead of the blame, that is philosophy in action. When you catch yourself worrying about an uncontrollable future and you gently guide your focus back to your current task, that is philosophy in action. Each of these moments is a small, quiet demonstration of your learning. They are the repetitions that build the unshakable inner steadiness you seek. Contrast this with a common experience. You can read about the dichotomy of control and intellectually agree with its logic. It makes perfect sense on the page. But then your day unfolds. A crucial piece of feedback is delayed by a colleague, shifting your schedule. The intellectual knowledge is there, but in the moment, your emotional reaction is pure frustration. The principle remained theory. The embodiment would look different. Feeling the initial surge, you would create that crucial pause. You would consciously sort the event. Your colleague's actions and the schedule shift are in the external column, not up to you. Your own response, your adjustment to the new timeline, your communication about the impact, these are your internal domain. You then choose an action from that clear space. That shift from knowing to doing is where perspective becomes power. So here is your direct invitation, the call to move from map to journey. Pick one single principle from this exploration, just one that resonated with you. It might be the view from above, or the discipline of assent, or the practice of gratitude for fundamentals. Now make it concrete. What is one specific, small action you will take in the next 24 hours to enact it? If you chose the view from above, your action might be to physically step outside for 2 minutes tonight, look at the stars, and consciously place a current concern within that vastness. If you chose the discipline of assent, your action could be to write down one automatic judgment you make tomorrow and beside it, write one alternative, more generous interpretation. Choose something simple, tangible, and doable. That one small act is your answer to Epictetus. It is your demonstration. It is the moment you stop just learning about steadiness and start actively building it, one chosen response at a time. All these practices converge on a single aim, forging an unshakable character. This is the long view, the ultimate project that gives meaning to every daily effort in perspective management. Your character is not your momentary mood or your immediate reaction. It is the deep, slow result of your most consistent choices, the bedrock of your being that remains after the weather of daily events has passed. The Stoics saw this as the only possession of true and lasting value, the one thing no external force could ever strip from you. In his letters, Seneca wrote with profound clarity on this point. He described the fruit of these teachings as the most beautiful and fitting harvest of the human mind, a character that is well-ordered, good, and stable. He called a good character the only safe and secure possession, a treasure that endures through every shift of fortune. This character is not a state of perfect, robotic calm. It is a core stability, a resilient flexibility that may be bent by a strong wind but has a natural tendency to spring back to its true shape. It is the inner fortress whose construction we have been discussing, built not in a day but brick by deliberate brick through the daily application of your chosen principles. Think of it like the growth of a great tree. You do not see it grow from one hour to the next. Its expansion is imperceptible in the short term. Yet, over seasons and years, it becomes massive, its roots digging deep, its trunk thickening to withstand storms that would snap a younger sapling. Your daily practices are like the steady intake of sunlight and water for that tree. The moment you pause before reacting, the time you spend in evening reflection, the conscious choice to see a difficulty as training, each of these acts is a small, vital nutrient for your character's growth. They may feel insignificant in isolation, but their cumulative effect is a structure of immense strength. This is why the Stoic focus is always on the process, not the immediate outcome. You are not trying to win a single argument or avoid a single moment of frustration. You are engaged in the lifelong craft of building your inner self. Each time you navigate a petty irritation with patience instead of spite, you are adding a brick of temperance to your inner walls. Each time you meet a genuine challenge with courage and a search for meaning, you are reinforcing the foundation of your fortitude. You can make this tangible by viewing your day through this architectural lens. Every challenge, every interaction, is an opportunity to lay another brick or to mix another batch of mortar. Did you encounter a frustrating delay today? That was a delivery of raw material. Your practice of focusing on what you could influence was the trowel you used to set that brick in place. Did you receive unfair criticism? That was another load of stone. Your discipline of examining your judgments was the level you used to ensure that brick was laid straight, keeping your entire structure from tilting. This perspective transforms mundane annoyances into meaningful contributions to your grand project. So here is a reflective prompt to connect this long view to your own journey. Looking back over the last year, in what way has your character become more resilient? What specific practice, what single brick contributed most to that strengthening? Was it the consistent effort to question your initial judgments, creating more space between event and reaction? Was it the habit of nightly review, which allowed you to learn from your experiences and solidify your intentions? Or was it the simple, repeated decision to focus on what you could control, which gradually quieted the background noise of anxiety? Identifying that one contribution is a powerful act of recognition. It shows you that the construction is real, that your efforts are not in vain, and that the unshakable character you are building is already, quietly, taking shape within you. Mental balance is not a fortress we build against the world, but a garden we cultivate within ourselves. This entire journey has been about a simple yet radical shift in focus, from trying to control the external storm to mastering our internal climate. The Stoics handed us not a shield but a compass. We learned to sort our concerns with the dichotomy of control, investing our energy only in what is truly ours to shape. We practiced loving our fate with Amor Fati, seeing every obstacle not as a blockade but as the very path forward. And we anchored ourselves in the present moment, the only reality where our agency truly lives. These are not separate ideas but interconnected tools in a single toolkit for the soul. They all serve one master, the quality of your inner world. Marcus Aurelius offered the perfect summary of this entire practice in the quiet of his journal. He wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Every principle we have explored is a choice of dye, a deliberate selection of the hues that will tint your experience of life. Will you choose the dark shades of worry over the uncontrollable, or the clear color of focused action, the murky tones of resentment, or the bright hue of understanding? This is the daily work, the ongoing exercise for the mind. It is not a philosophy you learn once and file away. It is a craft you practice with each reaction, each judgment, each quiet breath in the face of difficulty. Your mind is the most important thing you will ever manage, and now you have the manual. So here is your invitation. Do not try to change everything at once. Start with a single practice. Tomorrow morning, begin with the dichotomy of control. Carry it with you like a mental sieve, sorting each frustration into what is yours and what is not. Or perhaps choose Amor Fati and look at one current challenge to ask, how could this very thing be strengthening me? The smallest step taken is worth more than the grandest plan forgotten. If this path toward a steadier self resonates with you, consider subscribing. Together, we can explore more of this practical wisdom, turning ancient insight into modern resilience. And I would truly love to hear from you. In the comments below, share which principle you are choosing to start with, or a moment this week where a shift in perspective changed everything. Let us build a community of practice, reminding each other that the balance we seek has been within us all along, waiting to be painted with the colors of our own conscious thought.